Hey, chat, give me a couple more seconds for us to get started and do a little bit of a discussion. Don't go anywhere. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Astropub. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, completely blown out. I don't know what's going on with my camera. Oh, I know what's going on with the camera. We had a power outage, or I had a power outage at the end of the stream last night, so my camera got reset. Hold on. Do. video. There we go. It's a little better. Tornado? Nah, I just, so for whatever reason, my breaker trips randomly, and it's only for this room. I think it's just a matter of like, I've got a lot of technology in one room. I've got 5 lights. I usually have the main light off though. I have 5 lights. I have 2 computers, 3 monitors, a camera. So like, should have an electrician upgrade the breaker to a 20 amp. Not 4 lights? No, there are 5 lights. Literally 5 lights. The thing is that it would be one thing if they got tripped routinely. Then I know that I'd probably be using too much, right? Too much power. But they trip like randomly and once, usually like at least once every 3 months. Wasn't I'm on the breaker? I don't know. I'll have to ask you. I'm sure, like I said, I always have, like, the sources community is always filled with very talented folks, so I'm pretty sure there's electricians and other people in here. But it's only this room. Like, my wife has 2 computers plugged into her walls and has similar setup to me. We have electronics and other parts of the house that are much higher watt usage. Now I'm guessing that those places were designed to have higher watt usage, and this is just a bedroom. But you know, it's not like I'm running outdated technology from like 10 years ago. Most of this stuff is pretty power efficient. Rooms are usually not independently wired, but that's the thing. It's just the room. It's just this room. It's not like the rest of the rooms. It's not like the upstairs bedrooms, all like, it's just this room. I don't know why it's just this room that it's connected to that. Like I'm literally next to a bathroom. The bathroom doesn't trip when I, when this one trips. Is anything, yeah, they're labeled. But it's like labeled, like, it's not labeled in a way that makes any logical sense. It's not something I worry too much about, but every so often I'm like, I should probably figure something out. I think all of them are on different breakers because I think every single room in the house has its own breaker. Hey, Shadowstalker. For my game room, I've set up 30 amps, but the room is also rated for a lot of lights and stuff. So what you're saying is I could get an electrician to update the breaker a little bit? You could also have a loose wire behind an outlet. Other rooms could have different breakers. Could be on different breakers. Okay. Good to know. Well, we're not gonna play the game today because I took a little bit of time doing stuff. Yeah, and the lights aren't exactly crazy. They're all LED, low voltage, as far as I know. Like, they're not crazy power hungry. But I have a little question. I've been wondering for a little bit. Why didn't Pyrotechnic Amalgamated build the city on Bloom while they owned the system? Was it just because of the solar flares, or did those start after the system started dying? It's because of the solar flares. Pyrotechnic Amalgamated put all chips on black. They threw everything into Pyro, and because they were failing as a company, and so they saw Pyro as a way of them bouncing back, and they were trying to offset the cost of working in Pyro by getting the UNE at the time to fund their expansion, but the UNE basically said, nah, it's not worth it. It's too dangerous. So they never actually funded any sort of program to, like, get people to live on Bloom because of the flares. So Pyrotechnic Amalgamated was basically just, instead of building a city on Bloom, they were going to build a city around Terminus. That's Ruin Station. Like, that was going to be, McEwen Station is what it was called at the time, which is the CEO or the founder, I think. It was going to be a gigantic floating city, basically. And it was going to be a hub point for transitioning through the Pyro system to any other system, so. I'm excited to be able to see Dyson Spheres or Ring Worlds in the game someday. I don't know if we'll, I mean, that's what they're trying to do, is build a Dyson Sphere for sort of, it's an artificial world for Synth World. That's the big movement for Synth World. The one thing I really hope they do, and I know they'll never do, is build O'Neill cylinder colonies. O'Neill cylinder colonies are only in really 2, maybe 3, if you count the Expanse, popular ideas, because the Expanse O'Neill cylinder colonies are asteroids that are turned into O'Neill cylinders, but Babylon 5, Expanse, and Gundam are the only 3 series, and Gundam of all things having O'Neill cylinder colonies is weird because it's space samurai fighting with lightsabers. You know, and the Force. Interstellar does have it that's true. It does have it, but it's not like, again, it is kind of the main focus. Yeah. Citadel for Mass Effect is kind of, but it's more of like a Halo. It's more of like a Ring World, where it's like the cities face vacuum, so there's some sort of mystical science fiction force field that prevents the vacuum, the atmosphere from leaving the Citadel. Yeah, so Dredgen, the concept of Synth World is to build a world that is perfectly habitable for humans. We haven't had any details on top of it, but my guess is that it's similar to a Halo Shield world. Effectively a mini Dyson Sphere, but layered. So you have multiple layers of crust that people can live on. So you take an habitable world, a normally habitable world, and give it like 4 times the space and location to live. Because the idea is that if humanity can specialize in building synth worlds, then they don't need to find worlds to colonize, so they can just build worlds even in systems that are completely barren. Synth World, we know, has led to the creation of many new technologies. So a lot of the technological boom that's happened in the post-Mezzer era is due to Synthworld. Synthworld is basically like pressure-cooked technology out. But it's still a complete and utter boondoggle and a failure. The government keeps pouring billions of credits into it, trillions of credits into this thing, and it never works. Although there's also artificial gravity. See, my argument would be a great way to differentiate the old systems from the new systems is that the old systems, instead of having the stations we have in like Stanton and in Pyro, we have O'Neill cylinder colonies. So like Earth should be scattered with O'Neill cylinder stations. Same with like Redder and Croshaw and like the older systems. Even Vega should maybe have like 1 or 2 O'Neill cylinder colonies as and you know, Elite has O'Neill cylinders in them. All of the stations are O'Neill cylinders as far as I know. I do love the idea of flying through a station and land like an Elite. I just think it would be a really cool sort of effect to do, and it would also be a nice nod to like. I just love O'Neill cylinders because they're like realistic. Do you think we'll see a complete synth world in the game one day? I think we'll see the synth world project for sure. So what do you think of the terraforming blurb? What terraforming blurb? Is there a new blurb that's been released about terraforming? I hope to go to Kronos one day. A player event made around getting Synthworld built would be 10 out of 10. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the topic we're talking about today is like Onyx. In the loading screen? Let me see the... I have to look it up again. I'm sure someone posted it in the Discord. There it is. All right. Oh, re-terraformation. This one. This one. Right here. That one. So, I have a theory behind this. I think this is CIG setting up a lore reason as to why the planets that were not terraformed or were badly terraformed are now fine in the future. You gotta remember that when Star Citizen was first being pitched, the idea behind Star Citizen was that it was going to be Freelancer 2.0. So with Freelancer, for those of you who were around to remember it, there was no planetary landings. You landed with a cutscene and you went inside and you were sort of like a point and click adventure style where you went to the different locations at a landing zone. But there was no actual landing walking around on the planet. So the idea behind Star Citizen was to add parts of that in specific locations. As Jared once said, the original idea behind, or I think Jared, I think CIG themselves have all said, that the original pitch for Star Citizen had 90 points of interest. That was it. 90 places you could go between space stations and landing zones. Stanton alone has like 1,000. Now, a lot of them are copy-pasted, but even if you take that, easily 90 points of interest, even if they're like repeated throughout the Stanton system, just a Stanton system. So it became clear that they needed to expand not only the ground locations and space locations, but they also had to expand the lore, because the lore was written for Freelancer 2.0. Basically a bunch of planets as to why no one is there is because they suck. And the planets that they are good, you wouldn't land there anyways. So they're wanting full travel. They have full planet travel. There's like full planet traversal over every planet in the game. So as a result of that, they've had to change some things. And so I think what they're trying to do with the terraformation of settled worlds, that's probably a new lore piece that they're going to do, like a new storyline they're going to do next year, because they usually like to set those up in these small blurbs. They're probably going to maybe re-terraform Microtech or re-terraform other locations, maybe even re-terraform planets in Pyro, so that they can update the new technologies. And then when it gets to the actual systems, like, I'm trying to think of it like Null, for instance. Null has a habitable planet that sort of sucks, but it's just, that's it. It's kind of like Terminus. So CIG may re-terraform that planet so that it's actually less shitty, but still not great. Have they ever made it clear the position on the 100 systems in the context of the game we have now? Yes. They were at CitizenCon. They talked about how they still want to do 100 systems. They still plan on doing 100 systems. But the 100 systems is not feasible for them at release. And it'll take them a while to get there, but their goal is to get them all in.
You can take away my space
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever,
yeah, like 100%.
take away my space game.
Senale just resubscribed for 60 months.
Thank you so much for that 60 months of support there, Senale. You're very important, Papa. Very impressive, Mr. Very pedestrian. This is your fault that you're trying to drink a night. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Yeah, no, you can 100% go around every planet and moon in Star Citizen. There's one small exception, which is ArcCorp, but you can still fly around and even land on the rooftops of many of the buildings in ArcCorp. Outside of ArcCorp, though, yeah, every single moon and planet is entirely traversable. You can land at any point on those moons and planets, and you can walk anywhere. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's stuff to do everywhere, but that doesn't mean there isn't locations you can go to as well. Shouts and cheers, yes. 100 systems is easier than the Planetech has done. They will just lack custom locations. That's the thing. There's going to be some points of interest that are going to be genericified, I guess you could say. we'll see the same things. Like, I'm sure they're going to take the bunker system they have now and either rework it or expand it a little bit. But Onyx, which is the topic of what we're going to talk about today, Onyx itself is an example of them using an asset tool, which is their underground facilities, and using it to tell a story. So they're going to take that kit and they'll make tons of different Onyx facility-like things from different manufacturers and different things like that in sort of a toolkit. Onyx is a experiment from them. And I'm pretty sure that this kit was developed for Squadron. Like, the Onyx abandoned facility is probably using kits from Squadron itself that they brought over to Star Citizen. That's where the base building would come in at the vacant locations. Yeah, and they also plan on doing the new Genesis system that they're using. It might be separate from Genesis, but their plan is to do sort of like a settlement system, a radiant settlement system, where they'll have a large settlement, and then there'll be smaller settlements nearby, like suburbs, and even smaller outposts outside of there, so that they have regions that are connected together, and then they will be just randomly populating them all over various systems. So you have, actual networks of cities and towns that exist in these locations. So that, and each of those can generate missions, is the idea. Is there a new system coming soon? Planetary system? Yeah, Nyx. Nyx is the next big planet system that they're going to be working on. We'll probably learn more about it in October at CitizenCon. Almost certainly we'll have an update of some kind. System dev should speed up dramatically. They're trying to set up Planet Tech using AI. Yeah, they're using machine learning. That was the idea. I don't know how well it's working now, but apparently they showed it off at one point. So, do you know if they plan on making the Connie fully functional, such as the engines nacelles are supposed to have a form of thrust vectoring? Also, VTOL in the front is meant to move forward. Almost certainly no. Like, the Connie is one of those ships where I think CIG is going to probably have to go back to square one with it. Use the idea behind it, and then completely work it from the ground up to the game that Star Citizen is now, rather than what it was supposed to be, Freelancer 2.0, when it was originally released. Are there plans to make NPC rescue and med missions? Plans, yes. Any timeline? Absolutely no. CIG has said that they want to do that, but they haven't said when or how or what's blocking it. They just don't say anything about that. I appreciate the answer. No problem, Ranger. It's actually a great way of looking at what Star Citizen was going to be versus what it is now. Is look at the Freelancer, the Connie, the interior of the Avenger, and the Aurora. Those 4 ships have not been really touched much at all since their initial release. Now, the Avenger eventually got larger over time before it became flight ready, and the Connie's had some touch-ups here and there, including adding the docking system that works for the Merlin. But and even the Aurora has had touch-ups. But basically, since 2016, none of those ships have had any sort of updates beyond the bare necessities. And if you look at the Connie, look at the crew quarters of the Connie, and you compare it to the crew quarters of any other RSI ship made in the last 2 years, you can see the huge difference in terms of what they were trying to do. Like, if the Connie was remade today, there would be a crew quarters section outside of a hallway. There would be a section for like an actual armory slash what is it called? An airlock room, which would be separate from a hallway, and there would be a mess section which is separate from a hallway. Plus the whole air tube thing that comes down when you go down on the Apollo, that would be on the Connie's elevator. I think the Connie's drop down elevator would turn into a ramp. And it'd probably get a bespoke hangar for the Merlin, rather than this cradle system. Do you agree with the rumors that the Paladin may be coming at CitizenCon or maybe October-ish? 1000% yes. If you look at the monthly reports, the last time we heard about it, it had passed its LOD 0 review, or was close to passing its LOD 0 review. So the way that Star Citizen, this is very generic. And it's not always 100% like this, but generally speaking, you have pre-concept, concept, white box, gray box, Lot Zero, final art, and then release. Those are the steps of a ship goes through. So it depends on the ship, how long it is. Sometimes it's the white box that takes the longest. Sometimes it's the gray box. Sometimes it's Lot Zero. But that section typically is the longest for most ships to go through because they go through a lot of changes and updates. And then once it's past Lot Zero or level of detail 0, it goes into final art, it's basically done. It's just a matter of adding animations, going lighting passes, making sure all of the surfaces work properly. And we all know that CIG's final art process is very slim. They will release ships without several parts of the ship working because as long as it barely functions, they'll release it. So that Paladin passing its final Lot Zero review or around that or close to it was in August. So them releasing it in, say, November around IAE, 100% possible. Paladin just entered Lot Zero. Perseus passed its Lot Zero gate and went into final art. Thank you, James. Yeah, once Lot Zero is done, it's coming out in a month or two. If the Apollo's back half was all cargo, it would be a modern Connie. Yeah. They're going to work on the Galaxy. It's just not a priority compared to the Kraken. Kraken's older. They wanted to get that done. Perseus is older. They wanted to get that done. So I have a feeling that they'll get the Galaxy. No, probably not the Galaxy. They'll probably get the Erastra. The Erastra's probably coming next. Does the Erastra have refining capabilities built into it? If it does, then I think the Galaxy is next. It does? Okay. So yeah. So it'll probably be the Galaxy. I know they both do. That's the reason why I was thinking like the Erastra might come if it doesn't have refining because CIG has to develop that gameplay before they do. And technically it can mine, so like that's its main purpose is complete. But I think CIG would be a little bit more gun shy with doing the Galaxy without having refining working, because it would be like, yeah, it's like a third of the reason why some people purchased it beyond cargo and medical. So did they add ground effect? Mining's a little tricky again. They have for a while. Hey, Luna. Today's guests are Darge and Axis0096. So we're going to be talking about the Onyx facilities. The main purpose of this discussion is to discuss what the Onyx facilities do right, what they do wrong, and what does this say about missions in Star Citizen. I've been talking with Zero State because Zero State made an interesting comment about the Onyx facilities after I saw him complete them. He said the Onyx facilities are fantastic, but CIG needs to focus on sandbox activities where there's not a story being shoved in our face, that we make our own story. And I've been talking with Zero to see if he can come on to an episode to talk about that, and I want to bring in some people to talk about, because we did talk about sandbox activities at one point. We had a great episode about that, but I want to focus more on like what's wrong with Star Citizen right now in terms of sandbox, and then also talk about, like, you know, from a different perspective, what sandbox needs to be in the future for people, especially people like Zero, who do a lot of sandbox activities and PvP and PvE stuff. Need more open world. I mean, me and Vertigo had an episode where we talked about exploration, and like I said right off the bat, CIG needs to start removing jump areas. Like, I don't mind if there's a marker that shows us where to go, just don't let us jump to it. Make a slow boat. Because if we can jump close and then like slow fly into it, that makes exploration a lot more meaningful, because it adds up the tension. It also removes everyone being able to jump there at any time, so it's more of a, you see somebody else there, it's going to add more tension. But it also lets you have that feeling of like, nobody's here, I'm exploring this area. Dredgen, thank you for hanging out, that's fine. This will be uploaded, the actual episode will be uploaded on the Captain's Table podcast YouTube on Monday, so. It spreads out player arrival in PvP too, yeah. Hauling is the current gameplay. Where's my Raylan? In production. Funny enough, Sand Chimera, it's in production. Which surprised the shit out of me when I heard about it. We heard about it a couple of months ago. They've basically said that they're removing the unique funky crates. So it's no longer going to use the crates that they had originally planned, and it's going to use the same system that the whole sea uses. So it's going to have the same, you can load normal boxes onto the Raylan. It doesn't require this unique crate system. Sadly, a lot of the features will make sandbox stuff more fun is still being worked on, like hacking, engineering, not relating to ships, but also locations, scanning, etc. Yes, but we made the comment, I made the comment in the sandbox discussion that there are ways you could do this right now, which would improve things. Like one of the things that improves sort of the player-to-player experience would be trading. One of the things that Star Citizen currently lacks is a player marketplace where players can trade goods with other people, setting prices, and then people can sell stuff. That alone would improve the experience 1,000-fold, because there's plenty of people who are sitting on stuff that they have no desire to use that other people would pay credits for or trade for, but have no way of connecting with those people. If there is a place where you could trade these goods, you would create a market, and that market would naturally like balance to the rules of economics. So CIG could manage it with fees and other transfer fees and other things like that to keep things like reasonable, but it would allow for players to actually interact with each other in a way that would be beyond shooting each other. Like Market Bazaar terminals in Star Wars Galaxies, like the player markets and the auction houses in WoW, that kind of stuff. Yeah, UEX already does that. They need to have a UEX in-game. I have a feeling this is one of two things. They'll update some ships like the Raylan with reconcept and then put them back in the production queue again. They've done this before, or because cargo is now fleshed out. We're getting more cargo ships like the Raylan Hull B. I think it's because the cargo is done. With cargo being done, they can go through the cargo ships and just like, boom, slam them out because they know what cargo is. Yeah, they've already talked about doing a repacking system. They need, with a repacking system, they need to have it to be automated first, and then have that automation take time. So like you're costing money and time to do that. But they're not going to have special railing crates because that's just too much work. I hope they will one day make cargo centers allow consolidating container sizes. I'd much rather load one 32 SCU crate than loading 32 1 SCU crates. Yeah, I think that should happen. To be fair, Dr. McKinney mentioned that. We'll see where that lies in the priority list now. Yes. The only thing I can see changing for the future is 256 SCU cargo boxes for the hull Ds and E. I don't think we'll get 256 SCU cargo boxes, but we will get larger than 32. We'll get one that would cover an entire pad on a space station. For the exterior of a space station. Question: will the Raylan be available to pledge at IAE once Jared said no more concept sales? Yes. So what they were saying in terms of concept sales was no new ships in concept. You'll still be able to buy any ship that is still in concept that has already been sold. The D holds over 20,000 SCU. Yeah. Yeah, the D and E are insane. The D and E are like planetary level cargo hauling. Gonna need a bigger tractor beam. It would make the tractor beams on ships more interesting, because then ship-based tractor beams would be the only things that could carry those larger ones. So like the MPUV would be useful, same with the 315P, because players wouldn't be able to pull out their trusty tractor rifle and move things over, because they wouldn't be able to move it. It would require station, ship, or ship-based tractor beams. I think that's the plan in long term anyways, is to make the 32 SCU crates only movable by ships and or the Atlas. And that the tractor rifles could only move up to 16. I got no clue what any player is going to do with the DRE. DRE is 100% base building. Station building and base building. They're going to be moving levels of cargo that are specifically designed to build stuff or manufacture stuff. You might see some like trading opportunities with it, like for like missions that require that size, but they'll be super small in comparison. Yeah, the size, they could also carry ships. The size of the cargo bay of a DRE could probably carry a Freelancer, if not a Connie. How hard do you think capitals and non-combat scenarios will become soloing? They'll be impossible. Soloing in the context of being able to use them for their intended purposes. In terms of flying them from point A to point B, I think they'll be perfectly fine. I would love for CIG to add more nuance to engineering with things like that they wanted to do, which is like priming the system, so you have to like turn on the power. So like you have a power generator. People have been fighting me on this, which is weird. CIG did a video on it. You have a power generator, the current power plants, which when you turn the ship off, the power plant shuts down. So in order to turn on your power generator, you need some sort of external source. So you either need to prime it with fuel or turn it on with batteries. So that way you have to use some hydrogen fuel to turn it on, and then the power plants themselves will burn hydrogen. Or you can have a battery-based system, but you'll still need to charge the battery capacitors so that they can work once you've turned on the generator. And they'll still use hydrogen fuel. Can D&E go through tunnel when fully loaded? Yes. The larger the ship, the more annoying to solo. The worse component condition, the more they will misfire, forcing you to stop and fix it. Yeah. Basically, a Idris is the reason why an Idris is so big is to utilize all of its capabilities. But in order to utilize all its capabilities, you're going to have to actually run and maintain all of the facilities, because things will break down and you need to fix them. But just turning your ship on and moving it from point A to point B will be pretty easy. Basically a starter in cars? Yes. So aircraft APU to start, yeah. Yeah, solar panels were on the list at some point. So having some sort of external way to charge your batteries and or prime and start up your ship is also something they've wanted to do. They've talked about it. Hey, Couch Merlin, thanks for the subscription on YouTube. People think that Eve hauling billions of ISK across the galaxy. Yeah. It's a little different. Showed several times handheld power packs to operate consoles with main power, or using those packs to get power up and running. I could see that being done in Star Citizen as well, especially for salvage gameplay. But a lot of this stuff requires engineering to be up and running for them to actually create the nuance. So I don't think that's going to actually happen. I think what we're going to get is and engineering that the first version of engineering we're going to get is effectively the final version. They'll add more stuff to it, but it's never going to go beyond the scope of what it is for the first test version we're going to get. Look at mining. Has mining drastically changed since it originally released? No, it's simply expanded where you could mine. So like it expanded to handheld mining, vehicle mining, different versions of ship mining, the different values of ship mining, new materials, but the fundamental loop of mining, which is power management up to a green level, keeping it in the green level until it cracks, and then hoovering up the returning resources, has not changed since its initial release. Neither really has salvage. So I don't see CIG changing the gameplay in such a significant way that beyond its release that it will add more things. But that being said, it's clear they want to add misfires and other issues to for players to actively manage your ships with an engineer. Now, I know that already sends people into a panic because they're like, I don't want to fly my Hornet and have to baby my Hornet's power systems in order to function. And CIG agrees with you. These are only going to be on ships that are multi-crew. Like that sort of like super fiddly system. But that fiddly system is also going to make it so that when your like power plant goes out, you can go hit it with some magic healing beams and it will be up and running again. When right now your power plant gets shut out, you're fucked. Whereas if you take damage in a fighter and your power plant goes out, you're still fucked. I think it'd be really cool for them to, for one day, build a lore ship, the Crusader Jupiter. I wish they would, but they said specifically they don't want to do that. But I still think that's a actual requirement in the Star Citizen universe, is a ship that would, a shipping ship, a ship that was designed to ship other ships to market. Because you wouldn't want to fly ships to market, you want a way to carry them. And whenever I say that, people go, Kraken? It's like, no, not Kraken. The Kraken couldn't hold like super large ships. It can hold like medium ships at best. And even then, it's not designed to just hold ships. It's designed to be a carrier. You need something like a cargo carrier for cars. Engineering just medical gameplay for ships? Effectively, yes. You're going to, the difference is that you have to reroute power. So if a power, you have to change power levels to different things to make different things function. You can reroute power through damaged relays, and you can go through to those relays and swap out fuses so that those relays can function better. The Liberator is only for small ships. The largest ship that the Liberator can carry is something like a Hornet. You need something that can carry medium ships to market. Do you think they're going to add IVS into respawning medical gameplay pre 1.0? Yes, 100% they will. They'll have to test it. It's just hard to balance cap ships. We have a system where it's always going to favor bringing some people in fighters is better. So going to be hard to pill to swallow when you're adding more people to the output of the same damage. So adding more and more without adding more output is what gets people up in arms. You're going to see the output. The difference is going to be that fighters are going to become more fragile. Fighters will become the vehicles upon which you can use for their incredible striking power, but they're incredibly fragile to getting hit. And instead of being destroyed, they're just going to get knocked out a lot easier. Won't matter if turrets can't hit them. That'll change. It's one of those things that CIG has been like actively avoiding for whatever reason, but like everyone in the community is like, make turrets overpowered, make them so that they instantly they have better velocity speeds, longer ranges. A size 2 on a turret should go further than a size 2 on a fighter. Like, absolutely break them. Everyone has been saying it. Is wherever I turn, people have said, make these things fucking matter. And CIG has refused to do that, but it's like, eventually they will have to. There's a huge boxy ship in the Star Citizen, or Squad 42 trailer, you said. I hope they add oh, you mean the gigantic, like, container ship. Yeah. We don't know what that is. I think a lot of people say it's a Consolidated Outland ship. I don't think it's Consolidated Outland. I think it's Crusader. I think it's the Crusader Jupiter. Point defense do fire at fighters. That's the other thing. Flak is another thing. Like, ammo types is going to be a thing that's going to change how turrets work. So adding flak to turrets, meaning, you know, will probably make it so that you can just hit in the general area and do more damage. PD firing at fighters is dumb. It's way more trouble than it's worth. I think it's needed. But I also think that the trade-off should be you have a PD operator. Somebody whose sole job is to direct point defense systems at incoming fighters. So it will naturally target missiles, but if it's going to target larger ships, it needs an operator to designate those targets. Basically giving one person, or maybe two people, auto turrets. That's what it is. And then the actual turrets themselves should be more viable in the sense that they're going to do more damage to larger targets. Yeah, 6 people in a hammerhead can't beat 6 people in fighters. I think they can, but it depends on the skill level. If you have 6 people who are equally skilled as the in you know, turrets as against 6 people who are equally skilled in fighters, yeah, the fighters win. But if you have skilled turret gunners and slightly worse fighters, the fighters lose. I've seen that happen. Like, I have seen fighters get absolutely fucking demolished by Idris gunners. Yeah, the problem is turret range and projectile speed. Smart pilots know they can outrange larger targets that don't have the same sort of size, and because they're smaller, if they do have larger guns like size 4s, the projectile speed is too slow, so by the time it fires, a smart pilot can drift away from the shot before it hits them. Whereas a much larger ship has a much more difficult time avoiding the same shot coming back at it from a fighter. Is even the projectile speed of lasers still doesn't really help. What is really needed is turrets need to accelerate the projectile speed. So a projectile-based size 4 weapon attached to a turret should be firing faster and be able to go faster than one fired by a fighter. Does it make sense logically? No. Does it work for gameplay? Yes, because it's all about gameplay. They just need a modifier on turrets for its guns. Yeah. And if you're looking for a lore reason, you can just come up with quantum bullshit, you know? Yes, on bigger ships, power plants and mounts can kind of make sense. Some sort of computerized assist technology which allows for the projectile speed of the weapon to increase. That's it. Also, different weapon types will help. Flax versus radiological versus armor piercing versus chemical, that sort of thing. All those, have they talked about increasing projectile speed on turrets on bigger ships? Because every time it's brought up by the community, which has been brought up by the community a lot, CIG seems to just go, no. It's like, it's an easy fix, and it's easy to balance in comparison. They could also just make turret-specific guns. That's too much effort. That's far too much effort to make, because then it requires more assets to be made and people to differentiate, and then you have the confusion problem where, is this the Bulldog is designed for turrets, or is this the Bulldog designed for fighters? And, you know, it's just easier just to have the mounts themselves modify. Speaking of which, will the Perseus ship with ammo types? They've said it in the past, but you know, they've also said that the Apollo would come with drones, and with drones, and it didn't come with drones. So it was an SEL. Don't ask me, because they pumped out so many. Okay. It's also drone door, yeah. But it's the classic, we're not going to release anything without its gameplay. Here's a bunch of ships we release without its primary gameplay. Or part of its primary gameplay. Because technically, part of its primary gameplay is already in the game, so that counts. I don't see how old drones make sense for the Apollo either. It's an example of the third shift. You have the first gen ships, which came out for Freelancer 2.0. You have the second gen ships, which came out for like Freelancer 3. So Star Citizen version 0, the sort of new idea of what Star Citizen was going to be. And then you have the current iteration of Star Citizen, which is much more focused on a 1.0 Star Citizen. The 100 system Star Citizen versus the 5 system Star Citizen. And those evolution of the ships over that time period, you can see it. Apollo is one of the earlier versions, whereas like the Ironclad is one of the later versions. Same with the Perseus. You know, I actually am against the idea of adding Intrepid cargo-style elevators for the Apollo. I know people want it. I originally thought it was a good idea. I think it's bad. The reason why I think it's bad... Oh, Griff, I didn't know are you still able to make it? Because I didn't know if you said you were only had from 3 to 4. So if you're only 3 to 4 and you got other things, feel free to do what you got to do. Because like, I know you only have a little bit of time. It's my fault for not talking to you earlier about it. I just completely blanked on it. I managed to get Darge and Access to come on, so in fact I gotta add them here. If you can come next week, that'd be great, Griff. The Perseus is coming soon, October, November. I think it might be a CitizenCon ship. We'll see. It sounds like it's almost there. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go get everything set up for the captain's table here. But again, the topic is focusing mostly on Onyx. The addition of Onyx and all that sort of stuff. What's your thoughts on base building? It will exist at some point. The reason why you shouldn't have cargo bays, I'll leave it at this, on the Apollo, is because, as someone said, well, you need to have the ability to load in your cargo while things are happening outside. And I think Jin, during our pub talk, said, why are you loading cargo in the middle of a mass casualty incident? It's like, oh, that's a good point. This is a plan better, idiot, sort of mechanic. It's like, yeah, plan better. You shouldn't be loading in medical supplies during a mass casualty incident. You should have done that before. We'll know in 3 weeks, right? We'll know before 3 weeks. CIG has been doing Perseus teases for the last several weeks, and they only do that when they're about to release a ship. So almost certainly the Perseus, because it finished its Lot Zero gate in August. It would be pretty quick to turn around in a month or two, but we'll see. No cargo elevators in the Apollo, thanks. Well, it just makes sense that, like, in terms of gameplay, that it's a lot of added complications for something that's more that can also add a little bit of plan better. Hi, I think you should be able to deliver supplies in case of any issue very fast. The Apollo is not a supplier. It's not a medical supplier. It's a clinic. The clinic shouldn't be delivering supplies. That should be a cargo vessel. You wouldn't have you wouldn't. There's a difference between a doctor and a nurse and a pharmacist. And even pharmacists don't deliver typically. Yeah, it's a mobile mass unit. It needs supplies, not delivering supplies. What it should have is a Connie that can do something like that. So it can supply like mobile areas while a Apollo acts as a temporary emergency shelter. When is IAE? November? Typically, it's a month after CitizenCon. Now, I also believe that they've been trying to pair it up with the week of Thanksgiving for the United States, because that's a big week for sales. So Thanksgiving is the 20. What is the? I think it's the 27th. It might be the 20th. Double check, because it's like the third Thursday in. In November? 27th. That's the fourth Thursday of November. So it's the 27th. So my guess is that IAE will be between the 20th or the 21st of November until the 1st or 2nd of December. There are no docs in Star Citizen. There are medics and pharmacists. There's doctors, but they have the auto doc that does most of the work for them. How many support vessels? A small group like 15 to 20 should bring. A hauler, a medic, an SRV, an experienced MMO player. The medic should be able to do other important thing too. Yeah, but it's also you're also dealing with different types of ships for different types of missions. If you wanted something that could do everything, you'd get the Endeavor. But the Endeavor is going to be gigantic. Like, that ship is going to be at least the size of an Idris by the time it's released, if not longer, not larger. You're talking a ginormous ship, because it's right now it's not. It's almost certainly going to be somewhere between an Idris and Javelin. The Hope is a hospital. But the Hope should also be able to have It has a actual landing bay to be able to support 2 cutlasses. That might change, but I have a feeling CIG won't change that. To be able to support 2 cutlass reds side by side, which would be about an Apollo. So you should be able to park a logistics ship or multiple logistics ships inside that hangar and then transfer medical supplies to the logistics ship and then fly that out to a location if you needed to do that. Thoughts on the medbed ranges of the Apollo? I gotta get set up. I'm 15 minutes late to the setup. Let's do the actual questions for the question and answer session. The Apollo seems better for bunker running FPS than a dedicated medic, so a drop-down cargo grid would make sense for that case. Yeah, but it's not designed as that. Whatever CIG wants to do with actual medical gameplay, we don't know yet, because CIG hasn't decided. I don't think we're going to see much in the difference between what they have right now, because it's mostly going to be regen gameplay, but Death of a Spaceman is going to be a thing. So, right. We'll be right back, chat.